had a little dust in the snow yesterday that closed part of the parkway, but nothing down here where we are at 3,000 feet. So I guess fall is here and winter's coming, which is as it should be. Here the leaves are mostly colorful. A few green ones left, but most of them are putting on their fall colors, and they look really nice. So, down to you, John, KZ4B, WA4LLR.
Okay, WA4LLR in the group, KZ4B, fine business, Dave. Steve, you're pegging the S meter, and Dave, you're coming in 40 over on the Eagle, Tentec Eagle. And of course we're using the Titan 1 amplifier. We have a big day today because we've got to replumb the sink in the upstairs bathroom, where I attempted to use this lye drain cleaner to unstop it, and this stuff turned to cement. So I've got to rip out and replace the P-trap and most of the stuff underneath the sink. My bad. If you let that lye overheat, it turns to cement and screws everything up. Otherwise life is good. So, over to WB4ARK in the group, KZ4B, over.
KZ4B, WB4ARK. Well, surely don't envy you on that project there. That could be a real difficult job, and then it might not be. So today it's clear, not a cloud in the sky, beautiful blue sky this morning, 48 degrees, and looks like it's going to be a nice day. That's very interesting that we've already had snow in the upper parts of North Carolina. And so it looks like we might be off to a cool winter, possibly. We'll see. So over to Cliff, WB4NKL, WB4ARK.
And WB4ARK, it's WB4NKL. I guess we're about due for a colder winter, or seemed like last year every time it would turn cold it would be clear, and then when it would cloud up it warmed up and it just turned into rain. We never did have much snow at all here yet last year, just a flurry or two. So we're probably due for one. 46 degrees here now, and not supposed to warm up too much today. About 50 I think they're calling for. Running the DX100B here today, and exercising it a little bit. Everybody's sounding good. I'm not sure about George, if he's hearing me. Gary doubled with him when he's checking in, and Gary won out here, so we'll turn it to George and see if he copies. Go ahead, George. K4GDN. It's WB4NKL.
WB4NKL in the group. This is K4GDN. And band's a little strange this morning. There's some fast fading and some slow QSB. I got about 75% of Cliff that time. Got all of John and Dave and Steve. I'm a little weird. I'm on the Viking 2 this morning, receiving on the HRO50T1 on the end-fed dipole. And it's about 50 degrees in the shack here. That's about what it was this morning when I got up. But it's supposed to warm up, and I think we may have a little rain later on. Kind of sorry to hear the leaves are already changing. Wife and I are going up to pumpkin forage next week. Hopefully things will still be pretty by then. Anyway, Looking forward to seeing some colder weather. I really like it. I'm in shorts in the shack, but I got a jacket on since it is just 50, and I don't even have the heater running. So that's what it is down here in Myrtle Beach, and it's clear, and it's supposed to stay clear for the next few days. So with that, I'll pass it on to Jimmy. K4JAL in the group, K4GDN.
K4GDN, K4JAL. Well, George, you're coming in up here better than usual. You're readable at about a 4 and a signal strength of about 3. So there you go. It's 43 degrees here. Going to get a little warmer into the 50s, I think. I'm satisfied with that. Let's give it over to Lee. K4VWD, K4JAL.
Thank you, Jimmy. This is K4VWD. Slightly high in frequency, but close enough, I guess. So it's 51 degrees, sun shining bright here this morning. It's good to hear everybody. So Doug, here she comes, W4DCS in the group, K4VWD.
Okay, Lee, fine business. K4VWD, W4DCS, Winston-Salem. It's about 45 degrees here as well. I'm cheating this morning. I'm on the Flex 6400. I'm driving a high-speed 220, which I guess is probably considered boat anchor. It's the only amplifier I've got here. It seems to do. I did a complete restoration on it. Oh, maybe 6-7 years ago, and it's been a good one. Anyways, Steve, sounding good on the Elmac, and good copy in here. George, you were 5 to 10 over here in the Winston-Salem from Myrtle Beach, sounding fine on that Viking 2. I need to crank one up, see if it still wants to play. Sitting there looking pretty, but I haven't operated it in probably a year. And kind of cycling through the rigs here. Anyway, I'm going to pull a one and done on you, Steve. I've got to get something in my belly. So I'm going to head out to Biscuitville and grab me a biscuit. So you guys all have a great day. And Steve, thanks for calling it. Let me look at my list here. W4MEC, Charlie, good morning to you, W4DCS.
Okay, very good, Doug. K4, W4DCS in the group, W4MEC. Good morning, everybody. It's 40 degrees here and clear, so my meter switch is dirty. Okay, back to plate, and it says 200 mils. Okay. Let's see. It's interesting. On the check-ins, I did not hear George, but I heard Gary. And everybody else was fine there. Well, and then apparently I doubled with Doug there, DCS. So a couple of scratch-throughs and rewrites. But no problem. Everybody's booming in fine. And buddy, my R13 is still in a standby mode. I've decided that my military table needs a set of wheels because of the situation, and I have stripped everything off the table, which is quite the project, and I am going to trim the legs about 6 inches, so when I put the support and wheels on, it'll be back to the normal height. So that will make things a lot easier in my shop where all this stuff is, and then I will get everything hooked up and see what happens. So I'm also working on my pickup truck, and I learned a lot about the Ford electronic ignition system, which in 1985 was a piece of junk. So I am on this Ford enthusiast website, and I've been picking their brain and reading their notes. So I'm going back to the straight carburetor, because it's a carbureted truck. It's an 85. The straight carburetor that has no computer gigeyes on it, and a new HEI distributor, which is distributor, points, coil, everything in one package. All you have to do is hook up a 1 DC wire and a ground, a safety ground, because it does only, it has a rubber gasket, O-ring on it when you stick it down in the hole for the distributor, and a metal bracket to hold it down, but just to be sure, there's a ground. And I can basically, after that, remove everything, including the Ford engine control module, because it does nothing. And the question is whether it's doing anything right now. The carburetor sensors that are screwed to it, you can no longer find, so it's pretty much a fairly common switch out. So I hope to get it done. And what made me decide to put a couple bucks into it was I pulled a compression check on that engine with 405,000 miles, and I got 150 pounds on all 6 cylinders, which was quite an eye-opener to me, so much that I asked my son if the compression gauge was that accurate, and he said, yes, it's very accurate. So I'm sure not going to argue with 150 pounds on all 6, nice and evenly balanced. Well, actually, I had 145 on 2 and 150 on 4. But it had to be within 75%, and that's only 4% apart, so that was about perfect. So hopefully the old Blue will be back on the road again and continue to rust. So K3OS in the group, W4MEC.
W4MEC, K3OS. All right, morning, Charlie. Morning, everybody. I'm copying everybody. George, you're barreling in here which is nice to hear. Copying 100%. Cliff, the DX100B sounds really great. Man, that's clean, I want to tell you. Charlie, okay on the car. I'm running the Gonset Twins just barefoot this morning into the 160-meter inverted V. Just recovering from yesterday's first of 2 cataract surgeries. Those of you who have been through it understand. I thought the lights in my shack were a little bit too dim. I no longer think that. Things are a little bright here, but we'll see. Everything is a bit fuzzy this morning. Over to you, Steve. N4LQ, K3OS.
K3OS, it's N4LQ. Yeah, Gary, it seems like I need more light for everything I do these days, and I keep a headlamp here to work on things, and I've got a big super bright 4-tube LED fluorescent mess up over my head, and still sometimes I need more, it seems like, and maybe that's the problem. Maybe I need to get my Cadillacs checked. But Gonset sound good, and sorry I missed you. George was just stomping you into the ground this morning. His biking too is loud here, and everybody is plus 30 over here at least. And let's see, snow. I can't believe it snowed somewhere. Boy, oh boy. Eagle sounds good, John. Titan is blasting away down here, and DX100 Cliff is just there's something wrong with that thing. They shouldn't sound that good. I've been saying that ever since I first heard it. It sounds really nice. And Charlie with putting new casters on his desk so he can slide it around. That's a good idea. I think the Everdesk should have casters on it. I've got casters on my little pod that here my amplifier sets on, and I can roll it in and out. So that's a good thing. Well, I had that SDR receiver go out on me about a week ago, and it's coming back today from the repair shop. And I guess it was my fault because I was working on a Heath HP23 power supply and shorted it out by being clumsy, and it put a surge or a spike or something through the line that somehow went back through the power line and ended up blowing up the SDR. Well, the antenna of the SDR was connected also to the Elmac sitting over here, and I'd forgotten I had changed power supplies, and I got the old power supply out just last night and looked at it, and I didn't have the 3-wire ground AC cord on it, just the 2-wire type, and I think that's the problem. You know, as simple as it is, 2-wire ground, what it's got inside the power supply is a capacitor going from each side of the line cord to the chassis, which is kind of typical, but you can measure from like another device here that's plugged in its chassis to the Elmac's power supply. You measure about 70 volts or so AC, and then you can turn the AC cord around the other way. It's not polarized, and it reads about 10 volts different one way or the other. So there's always some AC there, and it's enough to give you a little bit of a jolt. You know, doesn't kill you or anything like it would be if it was not through a capacitor, but so anyway, I'm putting the new cord on it, and I guess I learned my lesson that 2-wire cords and SDR receivers don't mix too well. The first thing I thought I would do was just in series with the antenna coax would be to put a capacitor on each side of the coax, and I tried that. You can't do that because you end up just picking up a lot of noise if the coax isn't grounded. It's got to have a DC ground, which is kind of interesting because I used like a 0.01 capacitor, which has a really low reactance, but that's the way it goes. Anyway, that's what we've been doing, and a boring subject indeed, but at least it's a little technical. And Doug, I guess he's on his way to Biscuitville there in Winston-Salem. Went up there one time for a ham fest and went by Biscuit World, and there was a line out there a mile long, and I didn't want to get near it, but I like the concept. Just couldn't get in the place. So Dave, over to you for another fun round. WA4LLR, N4LQ.
Okay, Steve. N4LQ and the group. WA4LR. Yeah, good signals today. Band's real quiet. John, the Eagle sounds good. Everybody's sounding good. George, you're a little light here, but I'm copying about 100%. And Cliff's DX100V is doing great, of course. Gary, the Gonzit twins, 20 over up here with no problem. Sounds great. I'm glad you got one cataract surgery behind you. I know my wife had both hers done a couple of years ago, and man, she can't stop singing the praises of of having that done. It was good for her for sure. 7-3 to Doug, and I'm sure he's well on his way to the biscuit kingdom. Let's see here. Kind of quiet as far as solar activity. We did have a magnetic filament erupt yesterday, and they think we might get a glancing blow from a CME on the 19th, but they don't know for sure. But other than that, sunspot number's 106, solar flux index is 144, and decay is 1. So that's pretty passive right now. Wonder if anybody watched any of the annular eclipse Saturday. I thought we were going to be completely clouded in, but the clouds broke up, and we got to watch quite a bit of it. It was about almost 50% obscured at maximum, but nice to watch a little bit of that going on. This day in history, a few things. Let's see, 1995 was the Million Man March. 1923, the Walt Disney Company was founded. 1987, baby Jessica was rescued from a well. I guess most of us remember that. 1946, Nazi war criminals were executed. 1793, Marie Antoinette was beheaded. 1973, Henry Kissinger won the Nobel Peace Prize. On this day in 1964, China joined the atomic bomb group. On this day in 1859, John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry. On this day in 1958, Chevrolet introduced the El Camino. And on this day in 1946, Alfred Rosenberg was executed. So there's a few things that were going on this day in history. So I'll go ahead and kick it back down to John. KZ4B, WA4LLR.
Okay, WA4LLR in the group, KZ4 Bravo here. Fine business, Dave. Just booming in. Conditions are great this morning, enjoying it immensely. We miss a solar eclipse here. The wife loves astronomy and all things celestial, and it was so cloudy we couldn't see a thing. And you could just tell it was getting dark. Shifting gears, I'm hearing, you're booming in, Dave, but I was hearing selective fading, and I'm in the process of setting up my Palstar R30 receiver that I have a Sherwood SE3 synchronous detector for so that I can fight selective fading, and that is great on AM. And I got it fired up yesterday, and I'm tying in the synchronous detector today, and I'm hoping to use that again with the T150 for my latest and greatest AM rig. And so that's the situation here. Today is indeed dedicated to plumbing. Buddy, you are right. It was a nightmare just tearing out underneath the sink because the P-trap and the little drain lever that was above it, all that was just full of cement. And I had a hell of a time just taking it apart. I had to use a pipe cutter to cut the pipe and just take it out and throw it away. And it was good commercial grade brass fittings that got wasted. I've got this thing about you go to Lowe's and it's just cheap Chinese stuff that's paper thin, and I hated seeing all those good parts go, but it was my stupidity. If anybody has any comments on how you can dissolve, I don't know what the chemical compound is. It starts out as lye. You pour it in the drain, and if you let it overheat, it I assume turns into some kind of salt. And I'm going to try CLR to dissolve it. That's an experiment. But lye is great as long as you don't overdo it. And I overdid it, my bad. So I'll be plumbing today, trying to put it back together. It took me an hour plus just to tear it apart. Enough on that. So, buddy, take it away. Oh, I have a question. One other question. Again, we have met the enemy, and it is us. My AT5K antenna tuner that I'm actually talking to you through, I wiped out the S meter, or the, not S meter, the SWR meter, power meter, because I had selected low power and then ran the amp through it and wiped out the diodes. And I'm wondering, I've got some silicon power rectifiers, 10 amps at 1,000 volts. And I'm wondering if I stick that in there that it might be more bulletproof than the, I assume the diodes that are in the metering circuit are closer, probably not a 1N34, diode detector, but closer to that than a power rectifier. But I'm wondering if I use the power rectifier, maybe I can make it bulletproof and idiot-proof. So if anybody has any comments on that, I assume they're both silicon diodes. All feedback is welcome. So, Buddy, take it away. WB4ARK in the group, KZ4B, over.
KZ4B, WB4ARK. Okay, John. Well, my take would be that you change the diodes and make them mucho powerful so that they can handle a lot of RF. What happens with the circuit that circuit is feeding, meter circuit or whatever, you might wipe that out. So I would be cautious about beefing that up. Just a thought, don't have any idea how the circuit works or any idea how it's constructed, so I may be talking about something that has no bearing. Well, let's see here. I was going to put the 32V on today, and I didn't get started in time. Ran out of time to get it configured. I thought I had all the plugs and everything I needed, and I couldn't find my adapter box, which has a cinch 2-pin male plug on the end of it to plug into the 32V mic input, press to talk. So I located that, but just ran out of time. I'll have it on Thursday, I guess. I'll warm it up here in a little bit and check it out and make sure it's working okay before I put it on, try to put it on the air. It's been a while since it's been on. I got it from Marty Reynolds quite a few years ago. Refurbed it. It's got the RF shielding around the RF deck. It's complete, so that was one good thing about it. And it's a very nice looking unit. It's not scratched up, beat up. It's in very good condition. I think I'm like the second owner or third owner. Belonged to a fellow that was in the military, because I have the manual. And then I think Marty got it from him, and then I got it from Marty, so I guess that makes me the third owner. Paid a good bit for it, so if anybody wants one that's in real good condition, I'd be willing to part with it. Heavy as it can be, though. Glad they've got those little dimples in the side of each end of it, each side of it to pick it up with. That makes it a whole lot easier. They should have done that with some other equipment. Well, I guess that's about enough of my rambling on about my radio equipment here. So we'll turn it over to Cliff, WB4 NKL WB4 ARK.
And WB4 ARK, it's WB4NKL. Well, thanks for the reports on the DX100B. I don't think there's anything different about it than a standard heat kit. I did change the capacitors, and I maybe went a little heavier on the coupling. I don't remember right off, but I have got more favorable reports on that than I have a lot of the other rigs. So I guess it's a keeper. John, I think the reason they use the germanium diodes is they make better detectors because of the low forward voltage drop. But you might look at some of the Schottky diodes. They've got low forward voltage drop, and they've got you can get them, higher current ratings. I know Steve built a protection circuit for his SDRs, and I did too, using Schottkys. And I think the ones I used had about a 3 amp rating on them. But Steve had ordered a bunch of them from somewhere. He might comment on that too. I missed the eclipse. It was clouded over here. I was actually out walking during the eclipse, but it was just clouded over. I did seem like the light got what light I was seeing got a little different look to it during the eclipse. Just a different, wasn't a little darker, I guess, but just a different shade to everything. I guess I'll send it on around. George, I copied you 100% that last time, so maybe you're hearing me this go around. K4GDN is WB4NKL.
WB4NKL in the group. This is K4GDN. Yeah, I copied you all the way that time, Cliff. There was still a little bit of QSB in there, but it's not too bad. John, on that power meter, I don't think changing the diodes is a good idea. It looks like the range controls come well after the diodes. They're basically shunts on the meter. And the diodes are in the circuit the same regardless of whether it's high power or low power, at least on the circuit that I'm looking at. And the losses might be a bit different. You put power diodes in there too, might affect the performance of the meter. I don't know. I've always used smaller type diodes in those sort of circuits that I've built, the Mighty Match or whatever. Anyway, it sounds like the grounding problems are always there, and I'm only getting a B&W 5100B here shortly for a fellow from North Carolina. Charlie had mentioned it before, and looking at that circuit, they've got some feed-through line filters, and I'm wondering if those are capacitors. If they are, I typically get rid of 2-wire connections and bypass capacitors that are on the line and either go to a 3-wire, or I always ground the chassis. Everything I have has got a dedicated chassis ground going to the station ground, so I try to avoid any sort of ground loop things. And even my ground rods, I've got several ground rods outside. They're all bonded together. Try to avoid any kind of ground loop problems there. Anyway, that's my take on what's going on there, and enjoying the cool weather. I really do like it. I miss the upstate, and this heat and humidity in Myrtle Beach, I'm just not into that. So with that, Jimmy's coming to you. K4JAL in the group, K4GDN.
K4GDN, K4JAL. Well, your signal really came up that time, George. You're totally available now. I guess I'll get on out of here. I got a lot of stuff I got to do today. I'm selling some more of my junk. Wish me luck. Well, I'm already got a deposit on it. I know it'll go, but anyway. Over to you, Lee. K4BWD, K4JAL, 7-3 till later.
Okay, Jimmy, K4JAL, K4VWD, 7:30. God bless, man. Hope you have a wonderful week. Talking about the snow reminds me about 30 years ago. It said the weather forecast here talked about Mount LeConte, and it's snowing up there. Well, about 30 years ago, I backpacked up there with some scouts the first week in January, and it snowed on us all the way up. The next day there was clear blue. It was a beautiful day. The next morning, after 2 nights up there, we started back down and it started snowing again. But the temperature was about 0 up there that night, both nights. So that was fun, going up Mount LeConte. It's a good memory. I copied George fine the first time, second time not much. Could tell he was in there, of course, but didn't have much. And that's about all I got here. I'm gonna listen, and I'll be around till Steve, you shut it down. But I think Doug signed out, so I'm gonna pass it on over to Charlie. And if I'm wrong, break in, Doug. So W4MEC in the group, K4VWD.
Yeah, okay. K4VWD and group W4MEC. Yeah, he had it off for Biscuitville or Biscuit World, whatever that is. Which reminds me of a story about a dedicated business to one item, and that was King in Oklahoma City. When my wife was expecting our second child, we were out there, and she had a craving, and it developed into egg rolls. And the Egg Roll King, to put it in perspective, if we were staying in a place, an apartment that was in Burnsville, the Egg Roll King would be in Mars Hill. Basically, it was on the other side of Oklahoma City, and guess what? It was a 24 hours. So I had made several trips at 2 o'clock in the morning to go get an egg roll. But you know how it is. She was craving that egg roll, and it was quite good. He said very, very big egg rolls, unique. When my son went out there last year, was it last year or this year? I don't get, time is confusing. This year, he went to check it out, and they had just recently closed. They had been there all these years, 40-something years, and probably more than that. But Matt was 3 when we were out there, so it was 40 years ago they were in business, and they had something to do. They put up a sign, said that we're closing because we can't get help, and which is sort of unusual because Chinese restaurants usually have a built-in amount of assistance, but apparently in that case it didn't work out in the long run. Or maybe they just retired, who knows. The capacitors to ground on the AC line, I was in so many pieces of gear, and I got curious as to what exactly that did, and I started chasing stuff on the internet, and I got to a paper on why it was there, and it's really a holdover from military gear, and a lot of people think it's RFI. Well, there's not RFI going into the radio, it's RFA coming out of the radio, and the military was concerned about that because of the old thing about picking up the HFO and a local oscillator and having it radiate and using it for radio direction finding. But it had absolutely nothing to do with what was going in, but what is going out. So basically, you can, in this day and world, you can take all that stuff out of there and not have those caps in there. They really don't do anything. So let's see. Another note here that. Cataract surgery. Yeah, well, I'm like the rest of you fellows. I've got the problem too, and my doctor says, well, we'll get to it when it gets worse. You wasn't too concerned right now, and I'm not seeing any dimming of lights or anything, but mine are weird because they're growing from the inside out, and I think they normally grow from the outside in, and towards the middle. So. And he said, we'll just take them out of there, you'll be fine. So I might schedule that here sometime in the near future and take care of that. So anyway, that's interesting. You fellas are picking up George great, and he is taking just about all my RF gain to hear him. And of course, he has come in here stronger, of course. But you know, when Steve said he was booming in and actually was louder than Gary, I said, well, good grief, you know, because all I heard was Gary. So it's just 60 miles away makes quite a bit of difference, and it must be antenna orientation, or that perhaps. He's sort of off my antenna sort of runs not east and west and not truly, I guess it's more southeast and northwest, so he's kind of off to the side angle off the southeast end, and maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. But I'm glad you fellows can hear him solidly. All right, let's go down to who's left here. Gary's still here. K3OS in the group. W4MEC.
W4MEC, K3OS. Thank you, Charlie. Yeah, still copying George just fine. I'm going to make this my last one, but just got a few things to do before I hit the eye doctors again. Couple of things, John, and the lye issue. Well, if you had a bunch of fat, for example, or oil or something like that in the sink, you know, lye and fats and oils, you mix them together. That's what they use to make soap. So it could be something just as simple as soap you got in there, or a derivative thereto. Regarding the eclipse, we were at the Lenore Ryan homecoming football game was Saturday. And my wife being an alum, we decided to attend the festivities, and did, but it was so cloudy. They were giving out glasses, eclipse glasses, but there was nothing to look at that particular point. And on the AC bypass caps, I got bit on the Kenwood transceiver, the twins, similar to Steve. I pulled them out and put a 3-wire cord in there. I think I'm just going to probably go back. I noticed, I did some comparison. I looked at like the Astron supplies and stuff like that to see what those guys were putting in caps, and they're not. So I think as part of my new grounding thing, running 3-wire cords, which like the rest of you I like to do, I'm just going to start yanking those caps out. I think they cause some problems. Although when you put the 3rd wire in there, they seem to be okay. But it'd be interesting to see whether there is any difference, hum-wise, for example, on some of this old gear, whether you pull them out or leave them in and run the 3-wire. On the Elmac, for example, I've had to lift the ground and basically go back to a 2-wire to get rid of some of the hum. So it may be some of those caps. Anyway, but everybody 73s, and we'll turn it back to Steve. N4LQ, K30.
Hey, is there anybody that would like to check in late? Call in for LQ now, please.
N4LQ and 4QH, Lyle and Dakota. Just wanted to say hey, over.
All right, Lyle, N4QH. Go ahead and make your transmission, and welcome to the net, and then turn it back to me. Go ahead.
Yeah, real good, Steve. Beautiful day here today. Real nice day. And you got a lot to do outside, I guess, and clean up the garden outside. We got a small garden, and et cetera. I'm going to do that today while it's nice and cool. So, anyway, very good morning to everybody on the net. We're some 70 degrees, and we'll see you all Thursday morning, if not sooner. N4LQ and 4QH, over.
Roger, N4QH, 73s to you. Glad you're having a great day there, and your DX60's making the trip over here to Shelby. Well, that was a good round, and technical and educational and all that good stuff. And yeah, the capacitor deal, Charlie, I appreciate that. And I always thought it was just to establish an RF ground to the chassis. I mean, that goes back to at least to the 30s, maybe earlier, with old my old Zenith that I got from Grandma didn't have any transformer, and it had a capacitor to the chassis. and it was always shocking me. And I guess the alternative is to isolate everything from the chassis except the antenna. But then everything depends on that one capacitor, and if it shorts out, then you got a hot chassis. It's really no good way to do it. And Gary mentioned the hum problem, and I've had that problem too in some instances where I had where I added a 3-prong ground cord and ended up with hum on things, and I'm not really sure what that was all about. I've got another Elmac supply that I had put a 3-prong cord on it, and it's working fine now, and I don't have any hum issues. So I'm not sure why I had that. There was somewhere there was a difference in potential between something, I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to rip those caps out. There's no use having them in there, and it just increases the vulnerability to things if they are there. And I'll put the 3-prong cord in, and then that way I don't have to worry about it anymore. And John, KZ4B, yeah, the Schottky diodes are being used a lot now by crystal radio aficionados, and they are apparently as sensitive to RF as a germanium, but they can handle a lot more voltage and current. And so I would say that's the way to go. Anything you do, you're going to end up having to recalibrate the SWR meter a little bit anyway, because the parameters will change. The diode that I used for my little project here is a BAT41, BAT as a dingbat, BAT41, and that's one of the higher voltage Schottkys. It's rated for 100 volts reverse, which is pretty good for a sensitive diode like that at 0.1 amps, 100 milliamps, and it can handle up to I think 200 milliamps for a short time forward voltage. But definitely I wouldn't use a silicon diode, because that wouldn't be sensitive enough, and the meter probably wouldn't read high enough. Although it would probably last forever, it wouldn't be right, because that is a detector. The SWR bridge is sort of like a couple of crystal radios trying to pick up a weak signal. Anyhow, it's been a good morning on the net, and we'll just make this our 73 round for everybody and turn it over to Dave for his 73s. And let's see, we've lost Jimmy JAL has checked out, so George will turn it to Lee, who is listening, and I don't know if he'll pick it up or not, but after that is Charlie and Gary, and then Lyle is gone, so that'll be it. So over to Dave, WA4LLR, N4LQ.
All right, Steve, fine business. N4LQ. WA4LLR. Well, I've enjoyed it this morning. Everybody's had good signals. Steve, thanks for calling the net. Everybody have a great week. 7-3, God bless, and Lord willing, we'll catch you on Thursday. KZ4B, WA4LLR.
Okay, WA4LLR in the group, KZ4 Bravo. Fine business, Dave. Steve, what is the manufacturer of the BAT41 Schottky diodes? Break?
Well, I don't know. That's just the part number. Just go to Amazon and put in BAT41 as one word, and then diode, and you'll get plenty of them. And the first thing that comes up for me is a pack of 50 for $6.99, and they will be delivered between October 25th and November 1st, and that's what it says. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. And also, buddy, your comment that the diode could act as a fuse if I put something in robust enough, it might wipe out the meter. That's a very important thought, to say the very least. And Gary, it's not a soap that this stuff is hard as a rock. I mean, it's like cement. So I'm assuming it's some calcium-based salt. I could be wrong. I was never that big a whiz on chemistry, but I am going to try the experiment and see if CLR, which is, you know, a rust remover acid, I'm going to try that on a sample and see if that tends to dissolve it. But, I mean, it turns into something hard as a rock. Well, I appreciate all the feedback on the diodes, and Steve, I will definitely order me some, and we'll go from there. Enjoyed it this morning. Conditions were quite excellent. More winter time than summer, and can't beat that with a stick. So, buddy, it's coming your way. WB4ARK in the group, KZ4, be clear but listening.
KZ4B, WB4ARK. I picked up the wrong microphone. Well, I'm glad there's some folks out there that know the circuit and could comment about the diodes in that circuit. Yes, they do need to be signal diodes of some sort if the circuit is the way it was described. And I've dealt with the Collins SWR power meter circuit, and it's pretty sophisticated. It's got adjustments in there for tuning it, and it's quite a neat device. 200 to 1,000 on the scale, and it works great. I've got several of them that I've gotten the modules from various sources like Fair Radio and surplus sales and so forth. So we enjoy that device. I've got it on quite a few of my units. Well, I'm going to say 73, and thanks, Steve, for doing the net. Appreciate it very much. And we'll hopefully be here for Thursday. So with that, over to Cliff. WB4NKL, WB4ARK.
WB4ARK, it's WB4NKL. I enjoyed it, and it's warmed up a couple degrees, up to 48 now, so I guess I'll get out here and try to walk around the block. Thanks for calling it, Steve, and might catch you there later on today somewhere. Go ahead, George. K4GDN. It's WB4NKL.
Okay, WB4NKL in the room, K4GDN. And copy to everybody fair that time. Charlie was the weakest at a croak. And Steve, thanks for calling the net. It was an interesting one. Look forward to being in here on Thursday. And see, I guess Jimmy went out, so I guess he goes to leave. K4VWD in the room, K4GDN.
I guess he's gone. Go ahead, Charlie.
I don't know, you might not have copied him, Lee.
I was trying to hear his carrier and was tuning for it, and he'd already shut it off, so I guess I missed it. I'm sorry. This is K4VWD. Well, thank you, Steve, for doing the net. You got a great signal here in Greenville today. I'll say 7-3. God bless. I hope everybody has a wonderful week, and I look forward to talking to you on Thursday. W4MEC in the group, K4VWD. So long.
Okay, K4VWD, W4MEC. Real good, everybody. I've been monitoring my bank account because we mailed a package to my daughter over in Lenore, and someone stole it. And within the package was a birthday card and gummy bears and a check for $20 to my granddaughter. Well, the issue is the check, which has routing numbers and account numbers on it. So I had done some precautionary things here. My bank actually wants me to come in and close that account and start a new one. The problem is, of all the things that are attached to that account, I'll be spending the day trying to sort all that out. So, and even get my pay deposited in that new account. So I've been watching it and moved most of the money in the account to savings, and I blocked off my savings as the overdraft source. So if someone does steal my information, they're not going to get much money. So I'd rather sit here and watch it for a few days and than go to all the grief of reestablishing that account with another number. So my garbage service at just a local family place here used to send your bill back to them, your check, just to their address, and I guess it was a mailbox out on the highway, because one day I called them because my check hadn't cleared, and someone had stole the entire contents of the mailbox. And I did not know that at the time, but, they got my check and nothing happened there, so I'm hoping for the same luck. And those folks went and got a P.O. box after that. But anyway, so it is a mess when somebody steals your numbers there, and credit cards, no problem. I'll call up and change that out in a heartbeat. But this is a little more tentacly attached to stuff, so we'll see what happens. That's about it for me also. We'll look for you fellas on Thursday morning, and y'all have a good rest of the day here. Back to you, Steve, and thanks for running the net today. N4LQ, 73 all, W4MEC.
All right, Charlie. Real good. Been a great net. And I'm just wondering about walking when it turns real cold, if I will keep it up or not. I've been doing 2 miles a day. Cliff, I hope you got that figured out, because it's going to get a little nippy out there in another month or so. But I'm going to try. Anyway, 73s. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. This is N4LQ, closing the Old Friends Net.